All right. So in 2011, the nation didn't do well with balance sheets. And when AP sees this, they usually come back the next year or the year after with the same type of problem. We can see right here, this is Mi Tierra balance sheet. So let's kind of see what's going on up here. I'm looking really quick. Owner's equity 0, never really use that. Oh, I see a demand deposit of 100,000. Required reserve of 10,000. So I know already, I'm just throwing it out here. So this ratio is 10%. Alrighty, so see this, excess reserves, they have some, which means they've loaned out 85,000. Remember, anything next to loans, it's gone. It's gone. All right? You can't loan it out again. It's gone. Okay, so let's kind of jump into this. I like this when they step up the difficulty level on the 2012. So let's look at the first question. What is the reserve requirement? It is 10%. We already did the work on this. We compared what's in required reserves to demand deposit. Boom, nice and neat. Alrighty. Now, here we go right here. Luis withdraws $5,000 in cash from his checking account. By how much will Mi Tierra's bank reserves change based on Luis's withdrawal? All right, so let's dive into this. Remember, you got to subtract or withdraw from both sides. And remember, hopefully you can see right there, the 5,000 is coming from both required and has to come from excess reserves. All right? So since we already found this, we know 10% of the 5,000 will be taken out of required reserves. So 10% of 5,000 is 500, and the rest will come out of excess reserves. Now remember what I told you. Reserves by itself, right there, it's by itself, is actual reserves. And actual reserves are required plus excess, which is 5,000. Let me say that again. If you ever see reserves, the word reserves by itself, that is actual or total reserves, which is required reserves plus excess reserves. And you add that up and you see that the answer is 5,000 is how much your total reserves will change by. What is the initial effect of the withdrawal in the M1 measure of the money supply? Well, M1, we go back to looking at this right here, and you went from a demand deposits to cash, a withdrawal. So M1 did not change because you stayed within the same category. Notice how they asked the exact same question as 2011, but now they tried to make it harder with an explain, which I just did because it stays in demand deposits and currency are in the same category, so it did not change. So B3 was highly missed, but we already set up our work, so this is really easy. As a result of the withdrawal, what is the new value of excess reserves? All right, remember, you got to pay attention to the wording, class. This is how much it's going to change by. They want the new value, so they could ask how much does it change by, which is what they did up here. But here they're asking, or they could ask, what is the new value? So when I subtract 4,500 from excess reserves, I am left with 500. All right, so they want the new value, not how much it's changed by. So I've subtracted, because of withdrawal, I have to take 4,500 from my excess reserves, leaving me with 500. And hopefully, of course, that makes sense to y'all. All right, next. Last problem. Assume that the next day John withdraws from Mi Tierra Bank an amount that exceeds the bank's excess reserves. Whoa. Assuming that no loans are called in, how can Mi Tierra Bank cover its required reserves? Okay. So what they're saying is now there's only $500 in excess reserves, and now someone else comes in and they said, hey, I want to withdraw $20,000. Or let's make it easier. I want to withdraw $1,000. Well, they only have 500 in excess reserves. So they're going to have to take this 500 plus 500 from required reserves. So what do? The Fed says you have to have 10% of your deposits. And basically they're not having 10% of their deposits in there. So what they can do is this, all right? They are going to, of course, how do they cover it? They borrow. First thing they're going to try to do, borrow money from another bank. And if that fails, they can go to the borrow from the Fed, which is the lender of last resort. And this is how it works. So that is the 2012 balance sheet. So we did 2011, now 2012. And then we get to 2016, which was a doozy, and the last time they've asked about balance sheet. And remember, I think this is what they're going to do. Okay, guys. See ya.